Hi, I'm Mary.
And I'm Katie, and this is The Housewife Did It.
True Crime Edition. Mary changed her mind edition and is switching to coffee.
If you were here last week, Mary was on her way to drunkenness. And a week later, she's decided to be sober.
Yeah.
Just
She did
kidding.
not like.
It's a few minutes later.
I started getting a headache.
are-
This is the end. Sorry, this is your show.
This is the end.
Oh, if you like our show, like, comment, subscribe. I promise, working on the merch we came up with last JonBenet Ramsey episode. It's just, it's my artist. I'm waiting for. I've got writer's block. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mary's like, I knew I had a part in there. What
yeah.
did I need to say?
What am I supposed to say? I guess it worked.
It did. This is the last part. Have you, Mary, decided if your next one is a multi-parter?
It will be 2 parts. Here's the trouble I had was, and I think you said this about the Vatican girl episode, was like, if I made it 1 part, it would be incredibly long.
Right.
But as 2 parts, it's kind of short.
Sure.
So I wrote everything up to, I wrote as much as I could without, like, what happened after, like, the year she went missing and any theories. And I had 6 pages. Okay. And I was like, I feel like with this case specifically, I could fill up another 6 pages with theories and subsequent searches. And so that's how I'm going to kind of split it, is like the first part's going to be disappearance, immediate search. Second part's going to be theories and subsequent searches.
That's the other hard part about multi-parters, is like where to split.
Yes.
Like,
it's kind of like
want them.
Sense. Yeah.
You do want them to be like kind of different things each episode, but it's like, how do I do that?
Yeah. And then I thought about it. I was like, is it weird to just be like, here's what people think might have happened to this woman, and like, should I kind of like, because I've never done a 2-parter, should I kind of like, here's what you missed on Glee? You know?
Yeah. I do have real-time true crime. Surprise, surprise.
Yeah.
Here to shock the world. A 27-year-old reporter named Adon Manzano.
This was on the news at the Mexican restaurant I was at.
He was found dead in his hotel room in New Orleans while he was there to cover the upcoming Super Bowl. A woman with a history of drugging and robbing men in the area may be at the center of this.
A serial killeress?
I don't know that she's killed before that they know of, but police have arrested 48-year-old Danette Colbert, for now only on charges of theft and fraud. However, video footage from the hotel shows her going into Manzano's hotel room with him and leaving without him. So it's not great, not looking good for her. But yeah, also like 27, just there to report on the Super Bowl. That's sad.
Yeah, I saw it yesterday on Facebook. Like, a local news place had posted a picture of him, and I remember like kind of stopping at it because the news channel that posted on Facebook, a girl I know from diabetes camp, her husband is a news anchor there, and I think they look alike. And I was like, and they were like, rest in peace. I was like, oh my god, like her husband died. And then I was like, oh no, that's a different person. And then they were talking about it we went to a Mexican restaurant tonight, and they have like a Spanish news show going. And they talked about him on there too. I don't know what they said because the volume was off and it was in Spanish.
Yeah, from what I've seen, there is no like cause of death released yet, or like what happened. So I don't even know, like, does it look like he was shot, stabbed?
Right.
Is it an overdose? Like, we have no clue, but still crazy.
Yeah. Also, Taylor Swift was robbed of
Get
a
out of
Grammy.
here.
There was a shootout in our neighborhood a couple days ago.
Oh, wow.
In my nice white neighborhood.
Crazy. All right. Well, welcome to the third and final part of the JonBenet Ramsey case. We talked last time about what I would still consider the prevailing theory, that someone in her home is responsible for her death in some way, shape, or form. Accidental, rage, sexual abuse, who knows? But that's the idea. In the Netflix series that came out in December, they focused more on the intruder theory, and that's probably just because every other documentary ever has focused on the family. So they said, we got to be different here. So that's what we're going to get into today, and then we'll finish with final thoughts. So last time I mentioned Lou Smith, a detective who came out of retirement to help on the Ramsey case, although he came out of retirement for something else first, but we'll get there. This man just does not know how to relax, apparently.
He said, please don't make me retire.
I'm just so devoted. The main evidence that Smith pointed to included the metal baseball bat that was found outside of the home with fibers from the home carpet on it. He claims that the bat was found in an area that the kids would not normally play in. I don't know how he knows that. I guess I don't know where it was found, so maybe it's a place that like they couldn't play in, like physically. But he also says that the fibers specifically matched those of the storage room in the basement. So not just like matched the carpet in the living room, like they actually matched the place where JonBenet's injuries probably occurred. The unknown male DNA found on JonBenet's body is another sign for him that it was an intruder. And then finally, he says that there are leaves and debris found in the basement that he believes were tracked in by an intruder. In fact, just before JonBenet's death, Lou Smith had come out of retirement to help solve a different Colorado case that had police stumped. He joined the Heather Church case in 1995, following her 1991 murder. Smith contacted 92 jurisdictions across the country to test a set of unidentified fingerprints, where eventually a police department in Louisiana was able to give them a match. Robert Charles Brown had moved to Colorado and then murdered Heather Church, and like to the day that Lou Smith ended up identifying him, he actually still lived a half mile from the Church family home. That is crazy. He's just living right there.
That's crazy.
Nuts. Y'all didn't like check the fingerprints of the neighbors? The weird neighbors who just moved there recently?
Yeah. You can't be having this many like coincidences.
Yeah. Lou Smith had a reputation for being able to solve difficult cases, but in this case, there were already a lot of strong opinions by the time he joined the case in 1997. Even though the murder occurred 5 days before the end of 1996, there were already strong opinions by 1997. This is... Oh. Did you just break in?
A special guest?
Oh my goodness.
Come to okay.
Oh,
two special guests.
oh, hello.
Don't you say hi?
Oh, hello. Hey, Wee. What you doing, girl? Hi, Terry.
Scary. It always looks like she's like, she's not.
I'm flabbergasted.
Sammy, come get your children.
Terry said, "Don't say it ain't so, Mom. I don't want to go." Oh,
it's so fucking crazy. We got an email this week that they found her family on Embark.
Oh.
They look just like you. They do. They said, no, this is my family.
Come on, kiddo.
Bye, Sister Sue.
Bye, girl.
I love you. They opened the door on their own.
The strong opinions is not to say that the police did not explore some intruder theories at all in the investigation. They did. That's just not what they believe happened. One of the first people that investigators looked into was a man named Bill McReynolds, who dressed up as Santa Claus for the Ramsey family Christmas parties for the last 3 years. Some recalled hearing gross Santa Claus. Yeah. Some recalled hearing JonBenet talking about a secret Santa planning to pay her a visit, and they later connected this to Santa Bill. Is it weird for a kid to say Santa's coming to visit me?
No. Yeah, well, you shouldn't have secrets with children. Ever.
Yeah.
One of my kids the other day, they're not supposed to put things that aren't water in their cups. So it's cool, And she looked at me, and her mom had brought her McDonald's, and she had like a McDonald's cup, and she showed me her empty Stanley, and then she pointed to the McDonald's cup, and she said, "It's my secret." That's fine. But you shouldn't be paying secret visits to children, or you shouldn't, as an adult, ask a child to keep something a secret.
Mm-hmm.
Just advice.
And maybe JonBenet didn't know that her parents know that Santa comes. Yeah. Maybe she thought she had some cool secret, but
it was the 90s. Santa had just gotten invented.
But Santa Bill had written JonBenet a Christmas card that was later found in their trash, saying that he would bring her a special present after Christmas. So here's the thing about Santa. He doesn't come after Christmas.
Also, his name is Santa, not,
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I guess I'm saying, like, I don't know. I guess I'm saying, like, either she knows this man's not actually Santa, or
I don't think he signed it Santa Bill.
Okay.
I'm calling him Santa Bill.
Oh, okay. I thought like that was like she's like Santa Bill's coming.
No.
Like Grandpa Bill.
She said a secret Santa's coming to visit me. People thought like it must be this Santa Bill.
Yes.
And then they found a letter in their trash that they say is from him. Now that could mean he signed it Bill, or it could just mean he signed it Santa.
Okay.
Sorry. I call him Santa Bill. No, you're good. I should have clarified that that's a nickname. One of the strangest facts about Bill McReynolds in relation to this case is that on December 26th, 1974, his own daughter, who was 9 years old at the time, was abducted along with her friend. They both survived, but his daughter had witnessed the sexual assault of her friend before they were released. When asked about this, they said, like, didn't that happen to your daughter? And he said, yeah. And they said, when? He said, I don't really remember, like 25 years ago or something. And then they said, it was on the exact date. You freak. But he didn't remember. So 2 years after their daughter's abduction, Bill McReynolds' wife, Janet, wrote a play in which a young girl is molested, tortured, and murdered in her basement.
What the fuck?
Janet, that's weird.
Yeah.
Maybe that's coping.
Don't do that. No.
But don't share it. Steve Thomas wrote in his book about a young boy that was also killed during McReynolds' tenure as Santa Claus in the area. However, when I researched this, there are some conflicting reports that the boy actually died from an illness, not from any foul play. Still a little weird that this many children are just having things happen to them.
Yeah,
around this man.
I think it's, I don't know, maybe it's the 90s of it all, but is it normal to have a neighborhood wide Santa?
Maybe.
two of my kids
Maybe
are
once you
cousins.
see him, you'll be like, of course he
Yeah.
was the neighborhood
Yeah.
Santa.
Two of my kids are cousins, and around Christmas, one of them would tell me, like, every day, she was like, this other girl cousin, her dad was Santa 2 years ago. Her dad was Santa, and he dressed up as Santa, and he brought us presents as Santa. And I was like, oh my God, I get it. But like, we never experienced like someone dressing up as Santa and
Other than like at the mall.
pretending to be Santa in our home. And also, like, our parents were very clear, like, no one at the mall is actually Santa.
Yeah.
But to like, already it's a foreign concept to me when kids are like, oh my gosh, like Santa, I meet Santa at my
He's
house.
in my
I'm like,
house.
what the fuck are you talking about? But like, to have a whole neighborhood share one Santa is like
For years.
odd. That's weird to me.
Yeah.
That seems abnormal, and it seems weird that you would want to do that for so long.
Yeah. It's true.
My antennas would be up. My kid would not be coming.
Yeah. You love doing this
Yeah.
as a hobby? I don't like that. You at least need to complain a little so that I know you don't love doing this.
I hate children.
Yeah.
And I spend every day with them, so
cool. Still, obviously there's a lot of weirdness surrounding this family because those are weird things. Bill and Janet, though, claim that they have an alibi. They were in bed by 8 p.m. that night. Who can vouch for them? Each other.
The bed.
Yep. Janet and Bill had a son who had done some time in Arizona for conspiracy, robbery, and kidnapping. I will specify that the kidnapping in his case was like holding an adult hostage while he robbed somewhere. So, like, not in the traditional, like, he took JonBenet Ramsey sense.
Yeah.
But violence, it's not good. Similar to his parents, his alibi was that he went to bed early. For him specifically, he had taken some powerful prescription medication and knocked out. So, cool. I think what most frequently dissuades people from believing that the McReynolds are responsible is that Bill was 67 years old and Janet was 64. It is said that Bill had health issues, so most people don't believe that he could have broken into the Ramsey family basement window. And the police did get a handwriting analysis on all members of the McReynolds family, and they did not match. They didn't say this, but I would assume that later on they also got DNA that didn't match, but they looked at him pretty early in this. So when Lou Smith came in March of 1997, he also pointed out that there were marks on various parts of JonBenet's body that look very much like the marks of a stun gun, because they are there multiple times, and each and every time they match the distance between two stun gun prongs. I find this to be incredibly compelling. Not that JonBenet's parents could not have stun gunned her, but it does seem less likely. If we're going with the Burke accidental theory, it seems less likely that he stun gunned her. If we're going with Patsy in a rage did something, seems unlikely that she would stun gun her. If they're just setting up a scene, it seems unlikely that they would feel the need to stun gun her. But I guess they did feel the need to garrote her, so I don't really know if that's true. One of the other things that Lou Smith did was prove that it was absolutely possible that someone broke in through that basement window. He crawled in the window numerous times himself to show that it could be done by a grown man and that it could be done without entirely disturbing all of the dust and cobwebs and debris. Because, like, that's the argument.
65 and unhealthy?
He was old.
Okay.
But probably not unhealthy. But I mean, a lot of the time that's what people point to is like, oh, there's still cobwebs here, like no one could have been through here. But he's just trying to show like they didn't necessarily have to rub their body against every corner of this to get in.
Yeah.
You know, like some things have to be disturbed, sure, but like things can be kind of still there. He also showed that there was fresh grass trapped underneath the grate that sat outside the window, indicating that it had been like recently lifted and placed back down. And by that, he just means like there's grass in the yard and it was so long that it was like leaning over and the grate was like closed on top of it. So like, yeah, I mean, I guess the idea is just that like, hey, someone's been using this at some point. But also, like, at that point, he was coming in 97. Like, had they already run tests? Had someone already tried it? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless that was all, maybe actually, now that I'm thinking of it, maybe it was all from a picture at the scene. Like, maybe he said, hey, I'm looking at this picture from the day of, and do y'all not notice that there's grass in here? But for a few years, police had focused on a footprint that was found in the basement that they determined was made by high-tech brand boots. But later in the grand jury proceedings, this mystery would be solved when it was determined that either Burke or John or both did own these kinds of boots. So it would actually not be interesting at all or nefarious to find those prints in the home that both of these people live in.
This is very normal.
That's cool. Now, lots of tips came in about this case. Someone claimed to have come across a crazed-looking man at the Ramsey house holding white rope and a stick, saying, "You can't have her. She's mine."
Oh.
Now, why did we not call the police in that moment?
Right. Why is this the first we're hearing of this? After a little girl is dead.
Yeah. And also it's unclear to me when this happened. Like, was it months before?
Yeah.
Years before? Like, what are we, the night of? Like, what are we talking about?
Yeah. That's crazy.
Now, yeah, it couldn't be the night of, because this witness goes on to say that they saw this man again in church for the Christmas pageant that JonBenet Ramsey participated in, and the man whispered, "Don't you just want to strangle her?"
Oh.
Again, why are we not calling the police?
He has cute aggression. He said, "Oh, don't you just want to choke her out?"
He's like, "Oh my god, just squeeze her little cheeks."
Yeah, and then strangle her.
And that's why they didn't call the police. But looking back, they're like, "Oh, maybe he meant actually strangle her."
Oh, shit.
Yeah. But police looked into this and they found nothing. Probably because how the fuck are you supposed to follow up on that?
Yeah.
A crazed looking man.
That's crazy.
Some people had also claimed to see Gary Oliva hanging around the Ramsey home at times. He was a convicted sex offender who had served time in prison for the rape of a 7-year-old girl. Someone had called in a tip claiming that they were a friend of his and that he had called them on December 26, 1996, crying hysterically about something bad that he had done to a little girl. About a year later, Oliva did attend JonBenet's memorial service. And 4 years after her murder, Oliva was arrested for trespassing at Colorado University. Upon his arrest, police searched his backpack where they found a stun gun, a photo of JonBenet, and a quote, ode to her, which was not explained to me. I wondered if maybe it was like a program from the memorial service or like something. Maybe it's something he
don't
wrote.
think they? Yeah, I was gonna say, you don't think they meant like he wrote her like a poem?
Maybe that's just all it said, but I mean, maybe. Gary Oliva claims that he was involved in JonBenet's death. Episode's over. Problem solved. And that she has appeared to him since her death. He did offer this confession with the guarantee that he would get 3 meals a day in prison. Police ruled him out because his DNA did not match, but he is currently on parole for child pornography charges and lives as a transient in Colorado.
Great.
I also want to add that this man said about the 7-year-old that he raped that he would turn her skin into bacon.
Ew.
And this man is just walking around on parole. This is my thing. is it a hot take for me to just say, like, people who, like, rape children are not rehabable?
Yeah.
They do not leave prison ever and not do it again.
No, literally.
Especially if they want to turn their skin into bacon.
Yes. Like, the people who've been pardoned from January 6th have already reoffended and gone back to prison. Like, people who, like, serial rape children, they're not getting better.
Yeah. And it's like, sure, like, I don't know, like, we can talk about how, like, that's such a illness to, like pedophilia is or
Yeah.
whatever, but it's also like, it's clearly they're not being, like, cured in
Right.
prison. So why are we just sending them back out onto the streets?
Yeah.
In 1997, District Attorney Alex Hunter announced at a press conference that they were closing in on the killer. And that same day, a suspect named Michael Helgoth seemingly shot and killed himself. Helgoth was an electrician, and he was on the radar of the Boulder police because of the high-tech boots that he owned, which we've now learned are irrelevant. Some think that his death was suspicious because while he was right-handed, the trajectory of the bullet went from left to right. Now, I don't know anything about guns.
Yeah, I was
So
like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
Would you ever shoot with your non-dominant hand? I'm not sure, actually.
He was right-handed, but it went left to right. In his head?
Yeah. I would assume that that's what they mean.
It feels more natural with my left hand, actually.
We look like freaks. I don't know, man. Maybe people shoot themselves with their non-dominant hand. I wouldn't know, but people found that suspicious.
Not us.
I don't know. If you told me right now it's actually a statistic that most people shoot themselves with their non-dominant hand, I'd say cool. Whatever, believe you. In his apartment, though, they found those high-tech boots, a stun gun, a baseball hat with the letters SBTC, and a videotape of a news story about a 6-year-old girl's kidnapping. I imagine since they say a 6-year-old girl, they do not mean JonBenet.
Not JonBenet Ramsey.
And I guess she wasn't actually kidnapped, so... In 1998, Randy Simons was arrested in Lincoln County, Colorado for indecent exposure. He was found walking around a residential area entirely nude. When he was arrested, he told the officer, "I did not kill JonBenet."
Okay.
They said, "We didn't ask." But Randy Simons was actually, up until very close to her death, JonBenet Ramsey's photographer for her career in pageants. He later sold a portfolio of her photos for $7,500, which he claims probably put a target on him. Okay. Mothers in the pageants had their concerns about Simon and his presence around their children. However, his DNA was not a match for the DNA at the scene, so he was ruled out. But in 2019, Simons was arrested for 15 counts of child pornography charges, which he was sentenced to serve 10 years for.
That's so much.
Just a really awful thing to be found guilty of when you are the photographer of children.
Right.
Awesome.
True. That is bad.
Yeah. In 2000, John and Patsy went on the Larry King Show with Steve Thomas. Steve Thomas presented his theory of JonBenet's murder to Patsy Ramsey's face. He told her that he believed that JonBenet had frequent bedwetting and that her death was caused by Patsy's rage at a toileting incident. Patsy and other family members denied that JonBenet had a bedwetting problem, although we know that at some points in her recent life,
yeah,
she had, based on her medical records. I don't know if they had been solved in the last few months, but they said that she was fine. Patsy's sister insisted that she had never seen her sister angry in her life ever.
Damn.
Right?
They thought it was absurd when Burke was like, I've never seen that. What was it? A base like flashlight? He's like, I've never.
He said I always sleep really hard.
I always sleep hard. Yeah.
And they're like, she's never wet her bed ever in her life, and she's never been angry before ever.
That's crazy.
Oh, okay. I guess more importantly to this point, Lou Smith points out that when police arrived at the Ramsey home, her bed sheets were not wet, and they did not find any wet sheets in the home.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I guess if they killed her like early in the eve, like at like 10 at night, and didn't call the police till 5, they would have had time to wash and remake her bed. So maybe that means nothing, but
Sure.
it is, I think, important to know that like that her bed sheets were not wet. If we return back to John Douglas's thoughts on the case, he says that there were dozens of sex offenders in the area, and with JonBenet's high status, she would have been a target for a pedophile. He offered the profile that the killer was a white male, relatively young, who had a personal grudge against John Ramsey. He believes that the plan was to abduct and molest JonBenet, and that the ransom note was an afterthought. He suggests that the writer of the note wrote such a long note simply because they had the time. They said, damn, these people are still not home. I'ma just keep on writing. The Ramseys themselves wrote and published a book in 2000 called The Death of Innocence, where they would name a few people that they viewed as suspects. One of these people was Linda Hoffman Pugh, who was their former housekeeper. Patsy claimed that Linda had called her a few days before Christmas 1996, distraught and in tears. Her sister and landlord was planning to evict her because of overdue rent, so she asked Patsy for a loan of $2,500 to cover it. Patsy agreed to lend her the money and said that she would leave it on the counter before the family left for their trip to Michigan. Linda obviously had a key to the home, so the plan was she would just let herself in and grab the money once they were gone. In the book, Patsy also recalls a time that Linda allegedly said to Patsy's mother that JonBenet is so pretty, and aren't they afraid that someone might kidnap her? Why do people just keep saying this whack-ass shit?
Literally, I feel like if someone said that to me as a parent, I would call the police just for that comment.
Yeah. I'd be like, I get there's nothing you can do about this, but can you file a report? Like, can this be somewhere?
I hate this.
Yeah. Another person named by the Ramseys was Chris Wolf, a freelance journalist. His girlfriend had actually called in a tip telling police that Chris had stormed out Christmas night and came back the next morning in muddy clothes. Which, really, I just thought of this. If the snow was, like, melting in the way that they said it was, he might get muddy trying to run from somewhere. Yeah. Wolf had previously written an article about John Ramsey and Access Graphics, and he was friends with Bill McReynolds. So he did have connections to the family. John Douglas says you would have, like, personal grudge. Maybe he did. We don't know. And it's possible that while he was looking into John Ramsey and Access Graphics, did he find out how much John Ramsey's bonus was? Question mark. Also notably, he did own a sweatshirt with the letters for his Santa Barbara Tennis Club on it. That's two SBTC.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We're all like, what could it possibly mean? And all these people are like, it could mean 100 different things.
It's
apparently.
Literally everywhere.
Whatever. Chris Wolf was once pulled over by police, and he told them they could be using their time better by trying to solve a murder. Okay. Police did clear Wolf from their investigation, but obviously the family still suspected him. And both Chris Wolf and Linda Hoffman Pugh filed defamation suits against John and Patsy Ramsey. Which is crazy to me because, like, John and Patsy are suing people for writing about them in a book, and then they're just writing about other people in a book. And, like, everyone's just passing all this money around.
Yeah.
All these settlements. There were some other suspects who would fit Douglas's profile of having a personal connection to the Ramseys. Sandra Henderson used to work for John Ramsey at Access Graphics, but she was caught embezzling money and was terminated. She owed the company about $18,000. 18? Interesting. She went on to do this at another company as well and was put in prison. Some people suspected that her husband and or stepsons could have been involved in JonBenet's murder. The men in her family submitted DNA samples, which ruled them out, and Sandra herself was in a Department of Corrections halfway house on the night of the murder. In March of 1997, 2-year-old Elizabeth Bradwell went missing in Charlotte, North Carolina, where she had been taken from her mother's basement apartment. What does this have to do with JonBenet? We'll get there.
Great question.
She showed up 3 days later, alive, in a neighbor's backyard. Less than a week after her kidnapping, though, John Brewer Eustace III turned himself in to the police, claiming that he tied the girl up, taped her mouth, and used an electrical cord around her neck. He was charged with first-degree burglary, rape, kidnapping, and a first-degree sexual offense. The reason that police may have considered him for the JonBenet Ramsey murder is that he was also suspected in multiple cases throughout Nevada, so they felt like they needed to look in his travel history to find out if he had been in Boulder, Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
But what they found out was possibly worse.
No.
Eustace waived his Miranda rights in order to talk to the police officers about a good-looking girl. He told them that he had masturbated to images of JonBenet Ramsey, confirming a long-held suspicion that people were interested in the, quote, sexualized images of JonBenet in her pageants. We have already talked about this, that, like, that's about sick people, not about the Ramsey parents or JonBenet. But confirmation that sick people exist.
Yeah.
Eustace had a scrapbook full of photos of JonBenet Ramsey alongside photos of Barbie. And police found a makeshift shrine dedicated to JonBenet in his home. However, Eustace's DNA and handwriting samples were not a match. Plus, he had an alibi, placing him at work in North Carolina on the night of the murder. So I'd say that's pretty solid. I'll take that. In September of 1997, a girl who attended the same dance studio as JonBenet Ramsey and who lived 2 miles from the Ramsey family was attacked and assaulted in her home. The girl's father believes that the intruder had been hiding in the house for hours while the girl and her mother were at a movie. When they returned home, the girl's mother turned on the home's alarm system, which obviously never went off, so that's, I think, why he thinks he was in there before.
Mm-hmm.
The girl recalls that her attacker knew her name. Eventually, though, her mother came into the room upon hearing people whispering, and the intruder ran out and escaped. John Ramsey still believes that this was one of the failures of the Boulder police, that because this girl was not killed, the police did not consider these to be connected. And I agree. Sounds like she could have been killed, except that her mom walked in. So it seems weird that we would not consider that from people that went to the same dance studio as JonBenet.
Yeah.
The Ramseys hired private investigator Michael Tracy, whose primary focus was on someone who he had found online. This person operated under the name of Daxis and seemed to know a lot of things about JonBenet that were not public. Specifically, he knew the nickname that she called her grandmother, which Michael Tracy found to be very important.
Mm-hmm.
Daxus, whose real name is John Mark Karr, confessed to accidentally killing JonBenet Ramsey, and he wanted Michael Tracy to connect him to Patsy Ramsey so that he could please apologize to her.
I hate this guy.
Yeah. Also, like, what was I going to say? Oh, a lot of this people are like, well, like anything that isn't public knowledge about the case probably got leaked anyway, because like everything got leaked. And I think that that's fair. That like in this case, it's hard to like keep anything like under wraps. But if they're talking about like him knowing what she calls her grandmother, like I don't know that that's the kind of thing that would be leaked because it's not like related to the case, you know?
Yeah.
That's fair. But what if what she calls her grandmother was just like Nana?
I know. I feel like you could easily guess that.
And he's like, I got a good shot here. Let me just give it a try. So Karr explained to Tracy in correspondence that spanned over 4 years that, yeah, like committed. I guess, and I should acknowledge that through all of this, they did not know who he was. Like he was still just Daxus, but I'm not going to keep calling him Daxus. Yeah. He explained that his plan was to take JonBenet and he wanted to leave a note for her parents with enough information that they knew that he would return her. In fact, what he wishes he could have written was, "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Ramsey, I have your lovely daughter, but I will bring her back."
Yeah. Regrets.
But he couldn't write that. He knew. He knew he could not write that. So instead, he chose to write a very, very long and confusing ransom letter, which he only addressed to Mr. Ramsey. And maybe that's why he really wants to speak to Patsy so bad. I'm really sorry I didn't include you in the letter. He says, yeah. He says that he got into the home around 5 p.m. and the Ramseys didn't return until 10 p.m., obviously leaving him plenty of time to write the letter and to take a tour of the home. So he said, this little basement room sounds good. Cool. In his description, Karr seemed unable to say words like strangle or kill. He claims that he truly loved JonBenet and that her death was unintentional. He was having a, quote, sexual experience with her, quote, using a special necklace, and things went awry. They just did not go as planned. Though he did not mean to kill her, he did tell Michael Tracy how erotic it was to watch her die. He did claim to have drugged her to keep her quiet, but he also said that he did hit her over the head with a large flashlight, causing her skull injury. I don't know which one it is. Is it both? Also, were there drugs in her system? I think we would know that. So, I don't know. And also, you hit her over the head with a large flashlight, but then you're like, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
Things just went awry.
It feels almost worse that he, like, says all of these things, like, and we know that they're not true.
Sure.
Than if, like, he really did it, I feel like. Almost.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, like, from watching the documentary on Netflix, like, this is my guy. Like, I'm sorry, this is him.
Yeah.
And the DNA is just wrong.
I was watching it and I was like, how did we really truly debunk this?
Yeah. Yeah, but then now I'm like, it's because he said things like this, that he drugged her and hit her in the head. And, you know, like, it just doesn't make as much sense as people thought. In 2001, Karr was arrested for child pornography charges in California. At the time, he was working as an all-girls elementary school teacher. While he awaited trial, he ran away to Thailand. During his correspondence with Michael Tracy, which hinged on the hope that he could apologize to Patsy Ramsey, she died from ovarian cancer in 2006.
He said, please. He was Kanye at the Grammys.
Yeah.
He said, please let me run into Taylor Swift.
Yeah. He was absolutely distraught, much like Kanye, that he would never get to hear Patsy forgive him. I don't think she would have said that anyway, babe.
No.
Now,
anyway,
this distress created the perfect opportunity for private investigator Michael Tracy to get Daxus to reveal himself. Michael Tracy said, we have one last original photo of JonBenet. It's the only one we have left. I can mail it to you. I don't know where to send it, though. And so Daxus provided him with a UPS box address in Bangkok. While Daxus went into the UPS store, he was under surveillance, which is when he was identified as John Mark Karr. They continued surveillance on him for 21 more days before eventually arresting him for the murder of JonBenet Ramsey. My goodness, I have lots of burps. He was quickly sent back to Boulder, Colorado. Investigators would find some more information out connecting Karr to the Ramsey family. Vague, to say the least, but he had lived in Atlanta at the time that JonBenet was born, in Georgia. The Ramsey's housekeeper says that she had previously told John Ramsey that she had seen this man in their garage the summer before JonBenet's death. Again, seems like one of those things that after the fact you're like, he looks kind of like the guy.
Hindsight is 2020.
It's true. Where was it? But John Mark Karr denies being a stalker. He said,
I'm a lot of things. He was like, I may be stupid, but I'm not dumb.
Yeah. He said, I love this girl. I assaulted and killed her, but I did not ever lurk around her house.
Except for the night that I assaulted and killed her.
But that was out of necessity.
Yeah, and that was one time.
One time. That does not a stalker make. He says, don't say that about me. However, much like every other suspect in this case, John Mark Karr was released because he was not the source of the DNA in JonBenet's underwear. Michael Tracy still believes that Karr knew things about the murder scenes that were not publicly known. Others believe that his story doesn't actually make that much sense. Karr's ex-wife, who he lived with at the time of the murder, claims that he was with her in Alabama, nowhere near Boulder, Colorado, on Christmas of 1996. It has been discovered that he was enrolled in an Alabama community college during the winter of 96, so this seems possible. Reportedly, Karr originally claimed that he picked JonBenet Ramsey up at school that day, which we know was not true because it was Christmas Day.
Right.
At the time of his arrest in Bangkok, it is described that Karr did not resist, but that he did express surprise. He said, I never thought you would catch me. Oh, did you have cameras in the UPS?
I never thought you would catch me.
I thought Daxus was such a good name.
It's coming.
Uh-oh. Michael Tracy makes the argument that the DNA itself is problematic, which I have kind of been saying, because the crime scene was so botched and contaminated.
Yeah. I was going to say, what do we think are the odds at this point that we've had all of these suspects and none of them match this fucking DNA?
Or anyone in CODIS.
Right. That the DNA is a red herring at this point.
Right.
But then I also wonder, I guess, investigators, but, it also doesn't match anyone that lived in the home. It's whose DNA would it be in her underwear? But, how have we not matched it to any of these people yet? And that's exactly what the killer's wondering.
Mm-hmm.
How did I get away with this?
I know. So, yeah, the big question for me is the DNA sample literally, is that what's faulty? And that's why we're never called this case. People who want to believe that the Ramsey family is guilty could claim the DNA is faulty. That's why John and Burke are not matches. But they did do it. Same thing on the flip side. If people think the Ramsey family is innocent, they could say the DNA is faulty. That's why no one else has been a match. Anyone in CODIS, any of these people. But yeah, so that was my question to you. Do you believe that somewhere amongst this giant list of suspects, we do have the killer, but the DNA just can't be trusted? Or do we really believe that the killer is still out there, has not been looked at even once, and that we will only know when we match their DNA? Like, that's so mind-boggling to me.
I don't know. Yeah. I feel like if we're saying the DNA can't be trusted, likely because of the scene not being preserved,
Sure.
who would have, would we said saliva?
Yeah.
Who would have spit in her underwear?
Well, it would be the killer.
Right. But so what I'm saying is like, oh, you're saying like the sample was messed up.
Right.
Okay.
Or
No.
yeah, like was the sample messed up? Was it not kept at the right temperature? Was it collected incorrectly? Was it a miss like was it spit from the police because like no one was like, I don't know, but I would think that they would also be testing like the people who were
Yeah.
at the scene. But like I don't really know how DNA works, but then I'm
I
also
would
like,
think like
if it was
in her underwear, it
yeah.
would kind of naturally be preserved in that like
I think
they
the saliva was what was like, remember I said there was something streaking down her thighs, and we said, was it urine or was it semen? And I said it was saliva. I think that's what the saliva was. Maybe the underwear is also that, or maybe it's like a hair. Like, I don't really know. But yeah, it's just like,
I feel like it has to be something wrong with the sample at this point.
do you?
Like surely we
Yeah.
would have matched it to somebody by now.
And I kind of think that most of the world must think that. They don't realize they think that. But if you believe John, Patsy, and Burke are responsible for this, but then you must believe that the DNA is faulty.
Right.
Or you believe that JonBenet just has a random person's DNA on her legs for what reason?
Right.
And they killed her? And you think it's like unrelated?
Right.
So, like, if you believe the DNA is correct, then you actually do believe that not a single person that this case has brought to the light is the right person, and that we literally just do not know. But on the flip side, is it scarier to think that the DNA is faulty because now that reopens every single person up, and you realize that in ruling them out, it actually means nothing?
I don't know, because I also feel
Am I
like
making you stressed?
yeah, I don't know. I also feel like though that all of the suspects we've talked about, specifically like looking away from the family,
Sure.
have like a couple of things where like, oh my god, like that's crazy.
SCTC
But
or
like
stun gun.
yeah, but like not fully.
Sure.
And so then I also feel like maybe it is possible that there's someone else out there that we haven't looked at yet who has all of the pieces we're missing,
Sure.
including the matching DNA.
Sure. But does that just mean they've never been arrested and that's why they're not in CODIS? Just like possible. I just
Maybe they
that
killed
seems
themselves.
so yeah. Yeah.
I just like I don't know. I don't know what it is, but it's something about like the whole case I feel like the person who did it would kill themselves.
Yeah, maybe.
Like,
I
oh,
just
fuck, I
yeah.
killed the girl I love,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah.
Or maybe it really is a foreign faction.
They just are bad at their job.
Yeah. But
They
that's why
sent
we
it,
haven't matched them
and
because
that's why they
they're
haven't
not
matched,
from the United States.
and because this guy fucked it up so bad that the faction just took him out.
Yeah.
So now we can't find. He said, they said this was not what you were supposed to do.
Cracked the case.
We've solved it. So in 2022, the family petitioned the governor to sample additional items from the scene and to resample some specific items. They want to make use of national databases to find even a relative of the killer based on DNA, which is a new thing that has been happening. Great. In 2023, the cold case review began. A panel made recommendations to the Boulder police, but those have not been released to the public. So that is where the case sits. I know we kind of just did them, but any final thoughts? Do you we had, like, when we talked about the family, what was most likely if it was the family. Certainly there are people in here that are, like, more likely than others. Do you feel like you have decided whether it was family or intruder?
I do think that if it were the family, especially the fact that like Burke and John Ramsey are still alive, I feel like it'd be unlikely that they'd be like, please test this fucking DNA again.
Sure.
Please look at these things again. But so I really don't think it was them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like our foreign faction theory.
Yeah. I do think at this point, I believe that it was an intruder. If you told me it was the Ramseys, if they retested the DNA and they said, oops, we missed it, it was, I would believe you.
Yeah.
But I do feel like I bend over backwards more to make it be the family. Like, I'm like, I guess they just chose to continue murdering their kid after their other one hit her. And I have to, like, even though it doesn't make sense, I have to just, like, work with it. But the intruder
I think it's, like,
thing,
easier to blame them.
Yeah.
And just be like, okay, like,
other than like the other option is to say we know literally nothing.
Right.
It could be anyone in the world.
Right.
Other than the people we think it is, apparently. So
crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that with a case like this and as little DNA as there is, like, or as little evidence, physical evidence as there is at all, like, it is easy for me to be like, it probably was an intruder and we just literally don't know who it is.
Yeah.
But I also think that a lot of these people are suspiciously good for it. So then I'm like, maybe the DNA will come back and they'll find out it was wrong, and the whole time it was Chris Wolf who left Christmas night and came back muddy. Or
it was Fleet White,
the photographer. Yeah. Who were the two people with the SBTC? Chris Wolf had the Santa Barbara Tennis Club. Does he love his tennis club that much?
Right.
But then Michael Helgoth, it said he had a baseball hat with the letters SBTC, but they never told me what they meant.
Right.
I need to know.
Just suspicious letters.
Yeah. But that is all I have. This is a stressful case.
Yes. It's like annoying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Like, it's kind of like how I felt, different obviously because there were less options, but it's kind of how I felt with like the Kendrick Johnson case, where I was like, I don't like either of my options, but one of them, it's easier for me to say, if that happened, of course I wouldn't know all the other details.
Yeah.
If someone broke in and then ran away, of course I do not know all the details. Of course I don't know exactly what happened. Of course I don't know who the DNA belongs to or whatever. But if it was the family, it would need to fit things better, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't know that it does for me quite yet.
True.
So, that's all.
Good job.
Woo! Well, let us know what your final thoughts, folks.
Did we give you any new thoughts? Are you like a die on the hill of what you've always suspected kind of person?
Did we change your mind? Is there something we need to go watch so you can change our mind back?
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.